And welcome back. During the COVID-19 pandemic, individuals across the nation have been suffering from loss and grief, many in record numbers. Those situations leave many people finding it very difficult to find joy amidst such trials as well as adversities. In the area of social justice, there can be no lasting social justice without discussions about how we experience pain, whether in ourselves or in each other, and in the wider world. And our next guest is here to talk a little bit about that. She's a collaborating author in an anthology that's actually focused on real talk about love, loss, grief, and healing. Here to provide her point of view on the matter, I'm joined by the collaborating author for the book, Finding Joy in the Journey, and program manager at Roberta's House Family Grief Support Center in Baltimore and Prince George's County, Maryland, Yolonda Michelle Nelson-Swain. And we're glad to have you here. Good to be with us.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Good. So as we talk a little bit about what's going on right now, obviously the nation was reeling, and we know the nation was reeling behind the death of George Floyd. As we've been talking throughout the course of this show, also the death of Jacob Blake, which really puts another nail in the coffin, another knife in the back, if you will, in the hearts of a community that's already traumatized. So give us a little bit about what you feel people are feeling in this time.
Honestly, I think people are feeling anger. Some people are feeling a sense of hopelessness. People are just at a loss. They are looking for ways to deal with this, ways to express how they're feeling. There's just a plethora of emotions that people are dealing with or going through at this particular time in our country, in our world, actually.
And when we talk about the pandemic, we talk about a plethora of issues dealing with COVID-19, and
Yeah.
particularly in the African American community. We know those numbers affect more in communities of color than anywhere else across the country. What are you hearing in regards to the loss, the grief, and the trauma that people are feeling?
Again, because it's so much in our communities of color, and there's so much loss, especially when I'm in the Baltimore area and Prince George's County. People are dealing with grief in itself, but with it being the COVID situation, the pandemic, it's making it even more strenuous, or it's exacerbating the grief that they're experiencing. So with that, they're not being able to experience the being with their loved one when they transition. They're not able to have that funeral that they normally would have. So on top of that, they are not able to share their grief with other family members because of the COVID situation. So they're dealing with isolation, they're dealing with loneliness, they're dealing with, there's rising numbers in suicide rates, there's rising numbers in alcoholism and drug abuse, all related to this loss and having to kind of cope by themselves because of the isolation, because of what's taking place with COVID-19. So it's actually, it's heightening even post-traumatic stress disorder, all kind of symptoms and other things that are anxiety. That's another thing that's happening because of this.
Yeah. So you got a book, Finding Joy in Your Journey. And for many people, this is a journey and trying to make sense out of it. I hear people say all the time, 2020, I wish I could put an eraser to it. We can just go straight to 2021. But the reality is we're still here. We're going to have to live through it. We're going to have to deal with it. But I know that you've got a part of finding joy in your journey. So walk us a little bit through that.
So what it is it's an anthology of individuals who wanted to just share. People are sharing their own personal grief journey, how they were able to overcome some of the obstacles that they faced while grieving, what things, coping skills they use, mechanisms that they use to get through. Grief is just that. It is a journey, and everybody's journey is different. No one's grief is the same. We all grieve differently. We all grieve in our own time frame, in our own manner. And so this book is just out there to help people understand that what they're feeling, what they're dealing with, what they're going through is normal.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with you. Some people, like I said, their grief looks different than yours. And so a lot of times people feel that something's wrong with them or that they're not grieving right. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. We're all individuals, we're all unique, and so it's going to look different. Um, and so we just wanted to try to give people some ways to help cope with the grief that they may be experiencing, help them understand that it's a normal process and it is a journey. It is work. Grief is work. And so
Mhm.
you have to be willing to put in that work. If you want to get to your healing, it's going to take some time, it's going to take some effort. Um, and you really do have to do the work, but it is possible. And we want to just instill in people or let them know that there is hope and that you can find joy after a loss. And that loss doesn't have to be just loss to death. Um, Going back to this whole pandemic, people have lost their jobs, people have lost their sense of social, being able to socialize with friends and family. And so that can be very discouraging. And so we just want to provide a little hope and let people know that you can get through it.
Yeah. I think sometimes when we talk about grief, that a lot of people want to put a timetable to it, right? They feel
Yeah.
like I only should be having to do this for a
Mhm.
couple of weeks, maybe a month, and I'll get back to it. But I know for myself, I thought that I was good, and then I wasn't. I found out for a long period of time. It took years, and
Yeah.
still, to overcome. But for us in our community, grief and then also counseling does not go hand in hand. We deal with our grief, we keep our grief to ourselves, but then when it comes to counseling and getting that help with the grief, we're not always, as a communities of color, the first people to go and seek help.
You're absolutely right. And um, I see a little shift in that. It is starting to change a little bit as people are becoming a little more educated and understanding that you can't do it alone, and that there are people out there who understand and who can help you to peel back the onion. Um, I think we're taught, and I can only speak for myself. We're taught that what goes on our house stays in our house, and so we have to break that norm and say, okay, um, I need a little bit more. Need a little bit more help, and I need to seek support. It's okay, as I was saying before. Um, it's okay to feel the way you're feeling. Sometimes people are feeling angry. Sometimes people are feeling depressed. Whatever those feelings and emotions that you're experiencing are normal. It's okay, and it's okay to seek assistance or to seek help or support in navigating that.
Navigating it is such a hard thing, but give us some tips, if you will, on what are some of the best ways that a person can overcome, because a lot of people walk with it, they live with it, they take it out on other people, they engage in behaviors that are contrary to who they are, and all of a sudden you find yourself trying to wrestle and overcome something, but really not knowing, how do I get out of this? So give us some help on how to get out.
Number one, seek some support. There are many support groups out there. As with the agency that I work with, Roberta's House, we're a nonprofit. And so there are services out there that don't require insurance, don't require payment. You can join a support group. Um, Find other individuals who have also lost someone to be able to find that connection. A lot of times when you lose someone, you feel like nobody understands. But really, there are many other individuals who are also dealing with it on their own. So you can find other individuals who have also experienced the loss. Um, when you're trying to cope, we also stress journaling. Get a journal and write down all of those feelings that you're dealing with, you're experiencing, get them out. Because when you hold it in, that's when you do just, you're like a ticking time bomb. And so someone could just say one thing and it could be that day and you just explode. So you want to find an outlet. A lot of people journal, a lot of people listen to music, take a walk, just find some other activities that help you to be able to release what you're feeling on the inside.
Yeah. I know you wrote an article recently and talking about having hate in your heart. Share with us a little bit about that article because I found that to be very powerful and telling about where we are today as a society.
Sure. That was actually my first blog, and it was right after the George Floyd incident, and I just had so many different emotions going on, and it caused me to reflect and think about how we as African Americans have endured so much, and how we continue to push and we continue to go on, and I started thinking, the title is "To Hate or Not to Hate." And so, being that I'm a Christian, of course, I'm not supposed to have hate in my heart, but I had to question, like when I think about it, how do I really feel? And I can understand how people can develop hate in their heart because of all the things that we've endured as a race of people, and just because of the color of our skin. And so I just started writing and writing some different incidents and things that have happened across this world, across this country, to people of color, and just wanted to pose a question. Um, should you feel hate? How do we get past this? How do we deal with this? How do we grow? How do we overcome some of the things that we have endured, and still remain positive and still remain productive citizens of this country in which we are a part of?
And when we talk about where we are today, obviously we talked a little bit about George Floyd in the beginning and then Jacob Blake. What are you hearing from people right now? I mean, as you saw that video, and what we're seeing now is more and more what I say murders on video, and they're being captured on video. What do you say? What do you feel after watching a video like that again?
And to be honest with you, I have not. I didn't even watch the George Floyd video. I could not. Um, I cried. I literally sat and cried, because I have two sons. And so it just hurts my heart. And I couldn't bring myself to watch the video. I saw some pictures, but I didn't. But it just brings up so many different emotions and feelings, and that's what people are experiencing. Like I mentioned, anger. Um, a lot of people have questions like, why? Why is this continuously happening? What will there ever be justice? What do we have to do to um, be treated just like anyone else in this country? Why do we have to keep dealing with these same situations over and over again? So there's a lot of questions, and sometimes there's no answers that we have to provide. But then we also have uh, the protests and people making sure that they vote. Those are important things that I think that will hopefully bring about change to what's happening in our country.
Yeah. So for people who want to get connected with your writing, your work, how do they go about finding out?
Sure. My website is soulforreal.com. It's www.soulforreal.com. That's the website where you are able to purchase the book, and also the blog is there. Um, my email is Yolonda Michelle at Gmail. It's YOLONDA Michelle with two L's. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and it's I am Soul for Real at Facebook and Instagram.
And what are you hoping that people take away from your writing and your work? I mean, everybody has a hope that, when you're engaging in writing and you got readers out there who are taking a look at your stuff. What do you want people to take away from the work that you do?
I really want people to look inside of themselves, and that's why I came up with the name Soul for Real. And the tag is it's about the soul for real. And I think people really need to look inside of themselves and really take inventory of who they are and who they were created to be. And I just really want people to just positivity is what I guess I want to put out there. I just want to put out some positivity and people to really look inside of themselves and just be able to care about their neighbor or look out for their neighbor, make a change in this world in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. And lastly, for those who may need some help, obviously navigating the season, COVID-19, social unrest, political unrest, all these things that people are really dealing with right now, what advice do you have?
My advice would be to um, really just do whatever you can to put some positivity in our world, to look out for your neighbor, look out for your loved ones, make sure that we're checking on them, make sure that we are doing what we can to make a positive change, to deposit something in this world that can help make a change. That's really my goal, and that's my hope for people. Even though it looks dismal, even though it looks like things are going downhill, just keep that positive frame of mind. Look for support. We are helpers one to another, and so that's my encouraging word is to do what you can for someone else and be a positive light.
Yolonda Michelle Swain, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Thank you. And listen, we want to tell our viewers, listen, stay with us. We do have more show, more to discuss. Going to introduce you to a young person and an organization that's making a difference in the lives of young people when we return right here on the Social Justice Forum.